So silly. But I pray that everyone is well and that you have made it through. It's another Lord's Day that we are here, and I am grateful and thankful that it's a brand new day. I didn't deserve it, I didn't earn it, but God, in His grace and His mercy, said, "You're here." And so, for that, I am going to rejoice in this day, no matter what's going on, no matter what's happening. So, I have a hard stop, so we're going to go ahead and get into everything that we have for today, sisters. You all know that we are in this series called Compartmentalized Faith. And last week we talked about the locked doors. I know that was a little bit for everyone. I know, look, it stepped on my toes. But today we are actually going to be talking about the surrender. And this is a season for me where I am living out loud and going through all of these things. So uh, it's personal, y'all. It's personal for me. I'm going through it, and I pray that what I am learning is going to bless you as well. So everyone remember last week we were talking about the locked doors, and the challenge was what was, your locked door that you had that that God is trying to release from you, but you're still, wanting to close it and keep closed. And today, as we're talking about the surrender, it is so funny because all throughout like chats and conversations, this whole thing about letting go and things have been coming in. But I don't know if you guys can see it. I hope that you can. But this is like a little cup. And so it was a story that I had already seen, but I was like, I think this will be, really beneficial, right? And so there was a mom who was at the store with her child. And the little girl was always prone to always like getting candy, right? And they always loved her whenever she came in, and they was like, go ahead, go get yourself some candy from out of the candy jar. And so the little girl was excited. She was pumped up. She was ready to go. She was just like, yes, I'm gonna go get it. And so into the candy jar, she stuffed her whole hand in there, whole hand, Dr. Di, and was like, yes, I'm gonna get it. And as she was sticking her hand inside of the jar, she was trying to pull it out. She was trying to get it out, and she couldn't get it out, but she was holding fast to all of that candy that they said that she could have. And so she started, trying to get it out, but she couldn't get it out because she was still holding on to that candy because that was her treat. And that's what they said. And so she started to cry, and she was looking a little embarrassed because everyone else knew what was going on with her, but she couldn't realize it because her only mission and her only focus was getting the candy and holding on to that candy because it was for her and it was free. And she started feeling frustrated and she started getting embarrassed. And her mom said, baby girl, let go of some of it and then you'll be able to get it. And the jar was holding on to her, and she still was moving and fighting and trying to get it. She was like, no, mommy, no, I want my candy. And her grip was on it real firm. And her mom said, baby girl, I just need you to let go of some of it. When you let go of some of it, you're going to be able to get your hand out. And in tears, she's crying and she's, mommy, I don't want to. I want my candy. And she wasn't willing to let go of it. And so I ask us, the stars, on today, how many times are we just like that little girl? Where we're asking God to free us, we're asking God to bless us, we're asking God to elevate us, we are asking God, we're asking God to um, allow us to get up out of the circumstance. We want him to take us out of whatever it is that we have to go through, but we are still gripping on to the fear. We're still gripping on to control. We're still gripping on to some of those old pains, pride, habits, peoples, and outcomes. Like we're still holding on to it. We've got our fist in the jar and we won't release some of it. And God is saying, there's blessings. I got it for you, but you gotta let it go. And we don't. You and I can't receive the blessings if we keep our fists clenched up. We can't get it, y'all. And you can't receive it if it's not there. Today, we're going to an old faithful because I believe that this scripture has had more impact on me than I could probably imagine in this season of me. And that's our faithful Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not on thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Last week, we were talking about the locked doors and the places in our hearts that we have kept closed off from God, right? And this week, I pray that we're going to move deeper into it, because it's one thing for you to say, okay, you know what, Tiff, I did it, you know what, I'm gonna open the door. But it's one thing for us to open the door, but it's another thing for us to surrender in the room that we are allowing God in. You can invite God in and still try to control all of your furniture pieces in your life. You do know that. Like, you can say, okay, I'm gonna do the work, okay, I'm gonna trust, I'm gonna let him in, and we've did all of that. And, ooh, that stepped on my toes, Tiff, and I'm gonna let him in. But even when you let him into your room, you still are trying to control the furniture pieces. And God says, if you're gonna let me in, I gotta be able to clean up the way that I have for you. And so I want us to remember that surrender is about trusting God beyond what you can understand. I'm gonna say that one more time, because look, Dr. Di says it, but it's another thing when you hear it, but it's another thing when you got to go through it and you are in it and having to deal with it. And I'm telling you now that I am understanding now, surrender is not just about trusting God, but it's trusting him beyond what you can understand. Surrender is hard for you and I because it takes us having to trust what we can't trace. Like, I can trust that I'm gonna sit in the chair and the chair is gonna have me because it's something I can see, it's tangible, it's there. Y'all know Tiff loves her plans. I love like having an explanation for this is what it is. I know what the timeline is gonna be. I know if I say yes to this, there's gonna be some type of guarantee. Okay, it's worth my energy, it's worth my time. But in our spiritual realm, when we are talking about surrender, surrender literally says, God, I trust you even when I don't understand it. Surrender says, God, I trust you even when it hurts. Surrender says, God, I trust you even when the blessing or what I think should be is delayed and it's not in the time frame that I think that it should be. Surrender says, I trust you when it looks different than what I expected it to be. That's a hard concept. We can talk about that and say that it's amazing, but most of us, as women of God, we're not struggling with trusting in God's ability. We all believe in that. But what we are struggling with is his method and how he does it for us. You don't struggle with believing in God. I believe every single sister on here. We believe in, we know God has the power to do amazing things. Our problem comes in is because we don't like the method and how he does it to us. And I need you to understand that faith begins where your control ends. When you get ready to say, okay, I'm really done trying to hold on to this, I'm really done with trying to keep that door locked, that is when your faith actually begins. When you are at complete and total and utter surrender to God, that is when your faith actually comes into place, because now you're walking by faith and not by what you can see. Now you are laying there. Y'all remember when I told you about how when we like literally unrobe ourselves and we are all the way naked to God? Like, that's a vulnerable state. Like, that's literally the place that your faith has to stay in 24/7, 7 days out of the week, because if not, you're going to really struggle. And so I'm going to ask you, sister, and you can write this down under your point number one. What are you demanding from God before you surrender your obedience? What is it that you're demanding and saying, God, I need this and that, but you haven't obeyed and you haven't stepped out and did what he's asked you to do? Surrender is about us dying daily. It's a daily thing. And I'm learning that more and more. It's not just a one time emotion, it's something you've got to do literally every day that you wake up. It's the Lord, I'm dying to self today. Lord, I'm surrendering everything that I am over to you. Lord, I don't know what this day is going to entail. I don't know how the diagnosis is going to affect me today. I don't know how the person, the emotion, whatever it is going to do. But every day you have to understand that when we're trusting in the Lord with all our heart, it's about me being able to say, it's not about what I want. Luke chapter 9 and verse number 23 says, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily. It says, take up the cross daily, not when I feel like it, not when it's convenient, not when it feels well. It's a daily and follow me. Remember, we talked about God being our Lord. And if he is Lord in our life, it's not a if we want to, it's a command. You have to follow. You must obey. Sisters, today I need you to understand that surrendering is not just when you come together on, the sisterhood Bible class. It's not just when it's been, ooh, that was a good, powerful worship today. Yes, I love it. It's not when you just have that emotional encounter. It's a daily thing. Daily, you have to give up yourself. Daily, it's you showing up even when you don't want to. Surrender looks like choosing peace over panic. This is here. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. Today I choose peace. Surrender is I'm choosing peace instead of panicking. Surrender is about I'm going to pray about this before I just automatically react and respond. Some of us like to just blurt it out, and I call it we got diarrhea of the mouth because we just want to just vomit it out, put it out there. But sometimes in your surrender, it's about you being able to pray over having your impulse. Sometimes surrender is going to be you forgiving even when you're bitter about the situation. I know that hurt. I know it hurt, but it's about you forgiving even when you still have to face the people. Even when God doesn't remove them from your situation, you still have to forgive. Katrina taught us that's basic. Like we sitting up here holding on to stuff, and she said, that's basic. Like Paul said, that's basic. Y'all remember that? Yeah, she said that's basic. That's the beginner level of what women of God and people who are of him are supposed to be. Surrendering is about you being disciplined over giving excuses. Some of us like to give excuses for why we're not doing what God has told us to do. Even taking off the spiritual side, you and I come up with different excuses for things that we don't want to do. Tiff is on a mission, right, to lose 20 pounds this year, right? I know that I got to make some choices. I got to make some decisions. I can't eat that warm chocolate chip cookie that just came out and is nice and soft and ooey and gooey. I got to eat the apple. I can't take it because, look, I know the apple is going to get me to where I want to be. I can excuse it and say, I had a rough day. I had a tough time. I deserve that cookie. I deserve something that's going to make me feel well. That's an excuse that I'm giving to myself. Look, I have got to choose it. It's about being disciplined in the small things because, we think it's the big, huge things, but it's the small things that you're disciplined in that God rewards. It's the small little things that you do in obedience that changes everything. So you think it's, oh, I told him not to come, or oh, I denied the, part in going out, or oh, I stayed and I tithed and all that. It's the small things that you do that God is looking at each and every single day that is actually telling him, or is she willing to surrender? Is daughter willing to surrender? In the small things. It's the small things. It's your small obedience, the things that you and I think that's small, that God says, that's the thing I'm looking at. Sometimes surrender is about you being obedient even when it's not convenient for you. There are times in life where God is going to say, this is your situation, Tiff. What you going to do with it? And I can either trust and obey and say, I'm going to be the light bearer. I'm going to be the torch bearer for the God that I serve and show God despite how hurt I am, despite whatever else I'm going through. But you have to choose. See, in our verse in 9:23, it says, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily. See, the reason reason why he said you had to take up the cross is because when Jesus was suffering and was going through, and he had to have that cross on his back after being beaten, after being tore up, after being whipped, after being humiliated, after being unrecognizable, he still had to pick up the cross and still had to finish the work. Sister, if Jesus, the perfect one, the only perfect one, had to pick up the cross after all that he endured, what makes you think that you and I are excused from that? You got to pick up the cross. And see, the cross is heavy because it crushes your self will. See, this is why that verse is so impactful, because it says you got to pick it up daily. See, when you're daily picking it up, you're daily denying yourself of what you want to do. You're saying less of me and all of you, but it's a heavy piece for you to have. And that's why God says, I need you to surrender, because surrender is you freely giving it up, freely saying, okay, here it is. Y'all know I'm all about military, right? And you know, they wave the white flag. And usually when they wave the white flag, they're not fighting anymore. They're done. They've said, okay, I've got it. All right, here you go. Do whatever you will. Same concept, sister. When you are picking up your cross, it's surrender. Wave the flag today and say, okay, all right. What you refuse to die in yourself, sister, is what will keep trying to rule over you, or what will rule over you. And this is why when we say, oh, pick up the cross and daily follow him, it's not just oh, okay, I'm doing it today because it feels good. No, it's I got to pick up that cross when I have no money and I don't know where the bills or how the bills are going to be paid. It's the picking up the cross when that person has hurt me and now I got to see them. I got to interact with them. I got to come into their space and they're in mine and I can't get rid of them. It's the I got to love my child. I got to love my husband. I got to love my family. Even when they have did the unthinkable to me, I still have to love. I still have to surrender. Sister, you have opened up the door, but you still trying to arrange the pieces. If you're going to let God in, allow him to move and to do what it is that he has the power to do. We are talking about surrendering, being at a space of God, I'm waving the flag and I'm giving it over to you. Surrender, when you do it the right way, it will make room for God's better. I'm going to say that one more time. When you surrender and you get into the space of it's not about my will, but about your will, God, your surrender will make room for what God is better. You and I think on such a small, minute level. Such a small level. That's why Proverbs says, trust in the Lord. Don't trust in you. Because if I trust in me, I'm going to limit what my God can do. I'm going to limit the power that he has. But God says, if you want to get in tune with me, if you're going to take up this cross, and your cross is going to be heavy, sister, you're going to be filled with unimaginable, but you got to still carry it. You got to still go through, because surrender is making room for what God has that is better. Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2 is that is a verse that reminds us that we fear that when I am surrendering and I'm giving up my will for God's will, it's often because we think that if I surrender, God's going to take too long to give me something good. Like, if I surrender, he's not going to do it right here and now. So maybe I can just still hold on to it and get a little bit, or I can half be, half not be, and then God will do it. But do you know that many times God is trying to remove what's familiar for you so that he can make room for what is fruitful for you? Remember, we have to live. You remember in Corinthians, where it tells us about living by the fruits of the Spirit, right? And if you're going to live in the fruits of the Spirit, or have those fruits in you, it's not just something that you take on when you want it to. Those fruits of the Spirit are supposed to be within you on a regular basis, on a daily basis. It's what you're supposed to be drawing near to, not nearing away from. Sometimes when you get into the space, well, not sometimes, but when you get into the space of full surrender and you get rid of all the stuff you have, you're going to lose some things, right? Sometimes when you get in surrender, you're going to lose that false sense of security that you have. Some of us are well, you know what? We worked all our lives. We, saved, we're living well. We know things are going on, but we're all right. And our confidence is attached to the job that we have or the role that we play. You are excited because people come to you of what you have. You have a false sense of security thinking that, okay, that doesn't apply to me. I'm well. I'm okay. I'm the one that's healthy. I never have any health issues or things going on. Sometimes God is going to take those things away from you so that he can make room for the fruit that you don't have and that he wants you to be in. Sometimes surrendering is about you losing the attachments. We hold on to relationships. We hold on to people, things, job, objects, things that are no longer serving us. Sometimes you and I are holding on to the old identities of who we used to be. I'll give you example using me, right? Before Tiff had, got married, Tiff was a boss, okay? Look, I was, on the hit list to be, the one of the youngest people coming up to be up and coming director, all of those things. If I said it and I set my mind to it, Dr. Dot, it was happening. Like it was, there was no, oh, it made, Tiff made it happen. Y'all, I got married and it didn't happen like that for Tiff. It was like I was trying, stuff was trying to go on, and I had more struggle. And I said, man, if I could just go back to how it used to be. I was the one helping everybody out. Hey, Tiff, I'm in a struggle. Here you go. Don't worry about it. You don't even got to pay me back. I got you. It's all that. And then in came everything else. And God said, oh, you thought you was Miss Thing, huh? He was like, okay, let me show you what it is. Y'all, he took me from being at the top of the top to being without nothing, to having to depend on systems, having to be in places that I never thought I was going to be in. I was homeless, y'all, without anything. Not because I was out here living life and living large, but just unknowing, like just not knowing about how things worked in life being younger. And I found myself in that place for a long time. It was me and my husband living out of trash bags. When I tell you, God will remove some things from out of you because he wants to make room for the fruit. Now that I've experienced that, now that I've gone through it, y'all, I'm the budget queen. Look, we ain't spending this. It ain't going out. Look, if it ain't got to be here, we not going to do that. I'm asking questions. What does this mean? How long am I going to be here? Look, I got a fruit of discernment, Dr. Di. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Let's be clear. I done did some long suffering. We ain't going to go through this again. And so it's about you understanding that God will remove some things from you in order for it. Sometimes you and I have what I like to call counterfeit peace. It's counterfeit is things that look real, but it really isn't real. Sometimes you and I are acting and walking in what I call counterfeit peace. You think that because things are well, because you've got a hold, because now you're at a place of almost being settled. Oh, I got peace of mind. Let me tell you something. When you really understand who God is, when you really surrender to Him, the peace that passes all understanding is like none other. I'm talking about stuff can be burning up and you can be sleeping in your bed and not even worrying about the smoke or anything else because you already know who the smoke detector is and who created the smoke. So you ain't even got to worry about it anymore. I'm talking about getting to a space of stars where when you actually like say, okay, God, I'm waving my white flag, and you actually do it, and you actually let go of some things, the surrender will allow you to understand that you're not losing out on anything. You are getting prepared for higher. God never asked you for surrender to shrink you, it's to free you. Some of us are holding on to things and we are in these locked room spaces going crazy, losing our mind. And God said, if you let me in, let me rearrange, let me completely change everything that I have for you. Psalms 51 and 10 is what I'm going to leave us with on today. It says, create in me a clean heart, oh God, and renew a right spirit within me. Some of us are challenged because we got the wrong spirit. We think it's about what we want and how we want it. And God says, you ain't at the place of surrender yet. You haven't unlocked that door. You giving me counterfeit, Tiffany. You're giving me counterfeit filling your name. You're living in counterfeit peace. You don't know what peace is until you actually say, God, I'm going to have a new heart. My mind is going to be reshaped. I'm going to be who you called me to be. I'm going to walk in obedience. I'm going to trust in you with all of my heart. I'm not going to lean on what I know, because what I know is fleeting and failing, and it doesn't do any good. I want the spirit that you have. So when I have to pick up my cross, when I'm walking, when I'm going through, when the trials of life are heading up and coming your way, I can pick up the cross and say, I have a father, I have a savior who picked up this cross, and he still kept moving. He still freely gave himself and laid down his life and said, I'm doing it because they know not what they are doing. Sister, the blood still works. The blood is still covering. Are you willing to surrender today? What is it that you're still gripping? What is it? You let God in. You open up the door. You did the first step. But now that he's in the room, you trying to tell him where to put it, how it's supposed to go, what it's supposed to look like, how it's supposed to be. And God says, daughter, if you would just lose the control, if you would just lose the fear, if you would just drop your pride, if you would just let go of the hurt, if you would let go of your timeline, your image, your agenda, what you think should be, how it should be, and you completely give it over to me, pick up that cross, trust in me, because I've never left you. I'm never going to forsake you. I'm going to be the same God that I was yesterday. I'm the God today, and I'm the God of forevermore. So why are we not picking up the crosses and going forward in the name of Jesus? That's the name that is above all names. That's the name that can heal. That's the name that when you utter it in your circumstance, demons tremble. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers of the darkness. Sisters, the darkness and the evil is trying to overtake us. But on today, I need you to understand that when you surrender and when you give yourself over, there's going to be a new peace of mind that you have that is amazing, that is far above anything that you could ever ask, think, or imagine. Today, invite him in, sister. Today, I need you to be able to surrender and say, God, I give it to you. Wave your white flag today and say, God, I'm giving it all over to you. Rox, I turn it back over to you.